I've been able to generate over $1 million in my coaching business directly from word of mouth, referrals, and incentivized affiliates, aka these are other people sending me clients. Okay, in this video, I'm going to share with you a playbook of all the different strategies, tactics, and models that you can implement this week in order to start generating way more clients from your referrals, from your existing clients, which means that you're going to have new clients signing up without you having to pay for them via ads and without you having to pound the pavement via your organic content. Okay, these are literally people who will come to you, super high trust. They already know all about you because of how things have been set up, and they're the easiest sales that you will ever make. Okay, so let's dive into it. I've got this Notion document here in front of me. I quickly want to walk you through the model that we help our clients implement, and then I'm going to walk through. That's just to show you where the referral piece fits into it and how it compounds everything. And then we're going to dive into this word of mouth playbook. And we've got a bunch of stuff I want to rip through here with you. Okay, so first things first, let's start with the model, all right? This is what we help our clients implement. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so we can see this piece here more clearly. Okay, so we help them build out 4 phases, right? Our top of funnel, that's where we're generating new attention. We're generating cold traffic. We're focused on width. We're focused on getting the brand out in front of new people. These could be organic strategies. This could be paid strategies. Or, as you can see down here, we've got word of mouth traffic that comes in, okay? The main platforms we play on are Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And this serves as a way of us generating new attention, but you'll also see a bit of an overlap with these in the middle of the funnel as well, okay? And this is where we nurture the attention, we nurture the traffic that's already in our audience, okay? In this phase, we also use email, and we use some front-end paid products as well, because that's a great way to accelerate the relationship, all right? From there, the top and the middle of the funnel, and if you do the middle of the funnel correctly, it makes the bottom of the funnel, where you're ultimately converting people, really, really smooth, really, really slick, okay? And the way we do things is we focus on selling without sales calls. And so if you set this ecosystem up correctly, you can ultimately have people reaching out to you saying, hey, I'm ready to go. Okay, if you want to know more and you want a deeper dive on this model, go to the main video on my channel, and it breaks down how I've been able to sell over $4 million in coaching. And this is the model that we've really dialed in over that time. Okay, so the top and the middle of the funnel feed the bottom of the funnel, where we close deals in our main program. In my business, that's my inner circle, and then we get into onboarding and what really happens, what we call the post funnel. This is where you onboard, deliver, retain clients so they stick with you for years. That's one of the big things we help our clients with, is building recurring revenue and getting their clients to stay with them for years. And then this last little piece here, which is really, really important for our topic today, is compounding clients. Okay, there's a Dan Kennedy quote that said, you double your business overnight if every one of your existing clients referred you one new client, right? Really simple statement, but incredibly, incredibly powerful. Okay, and so when we set up all of this correctly, it ultimately leads to this compounding stage here, and you can see the model ultimately feeds back on itself, and that's where the word of mouth traffic comes in. All right, now just as a bit of a contrast, if someone found us cold, right, so say for example this is your first video that you've ever seen of me, you have no idea who I am, it might take you a bit of time to consume enough content to ultimately reach out and say, hey, I want to work together, right? The time that people take varies depending on the individual, depending on their situation, depending on their goals, depending on their finances, all that kind of stuff. But when in an alternate scenario, if you heard about me via someone else who'd already been inside my inner circle and we'd done this work together, and maybe they're still a member after 2-3 years and they're like, Jacob's amazing, he can help you out with your coaching business in a big, big way. When you come into my world and watch a video, you're very quickly going to maybe watch one more, maybe read an email, maybe even buy something low ticket, and then boom, we're going to have a chat and you're going to ascend. It's going to happen a lot faster. Word of mouth is incredibly, incredibly powerful content. Is a very, very powerful concept when you understand it, when you implement it correctly. Okay, so I just wanted to show you how this fits into the overall model. Now I want to dive into this playbook here, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different pieces that we're going to cover off today. Okay, so first things first, client results is number one, right? This whole model breaks down if you fumble the ball here. Right, you might be able to sell stuff for a little while, but if your clients aren't getting results, it's going to break down. They're not going to stick around, right? It's the delivery and the onboarding piece here. If they're not going to stick around for the long term, which is a separate problem, that we can touch on in future videos. But you're definitely not going to get the compounding traffic. And what's ultimately going to happen is that it's going to become so hard and expensive for you to acquire and keep attention back here. Because what happens is people buy from you, that you onboard, deliver, they get results, and then the results that they get, we feed that back in here and we feed that back in here to make our ecosystem run a lot more efficiently. It's some of your best content is people just hearing about the clients that you're helping. It's really, really simple, right? But at the very least, it's going to break down at the compounding piece, which means the word of mouth is never going to kick in and it's never going to flow. Okay. So first things first, we've got to make sure that our clients are getting results, right? And this, there's two pieces to this. One is the actual delivery, but two is what you're selling, right? And if you're selling something that just has such a crazy and outlandish claim, and it's something that you haven't done yourself or you don't feel confident actually helping other people with, you're setting yourself up for failure because you're not managing expectations correctly. And that's a topic we're going to dive into in a moment in a little bit more detail, right? On the flip side, if you really align with your offer, you get your clients great results, this compound effect can start to kick in a really, 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 really powerful way. Okay, so I just wanted to get that on the table. It's a given, and it's really important. Okay, the next thing is consistent niche messaging and mechanism. Okay, so the reality is this compound effect piece takes time for it to kick in. You've got to become trusted in the market. You've got to become known for a certain thing. You've got to have enough time to actually work with your clients, get them results, have them stay long enough, have them talk about you to other people. Then those new people have to come and find you, go through your world, and ultimately reach out and buy. Okay, so this takes some time to build up momentum, especially if you're earlier on in the journey, right? What you don't want to be doing is constantly changing niche, constantly drastically changing your messaging. You can tweak up your messaging a bit to test, and every week you've got a new mechanism or a new thing that you help people do. Okay, because what's going to happen is each time you change that, right, if the clients that you're working with here, right, that you're delivering with here and are hanging around with you, if they're telling other people about you and they're like, oh, Jacob really helped me implement this social selling system, he really simplified it down with the different phases of the funnel. Now we've got this world going, and I'm closing clients without sales calls. I'm building MRR. And then they tell other people about you, which is amazing. But then they come back and look, and now all of a sudden you're talking about something completely different. It's just going to drop here, right? The process is going to break. And so you need to have that consistent messaging to really capitalize on the word of mouth feedback and to get that compound effect kicking in. Okay. And so this is where you want, a clear target audience. You want to be going deep on that concept rather than incredibly, incredibly wide. All right. The other thing is that consistency of your message over an extended period of time, this breeds confidence. Okay. And as markets mature and more people enter them, and there's, different people that can help with different things, you need to demonstrate your expertise. You need to demonstrate certainty. You need to be really, really confident. And people who are confident and certain and strong in their messaging, they're not changing it every other week, right? So that's the other element of it that means it's really important that you stick to your core messaging. This, as I said, breeds certainty, and someone who is certain and who is strong in their messaging, they're really, really magnetic. Okay, and that's going to make this piece and all of these pieces really a lot more powerful. Okay, and as I said, when you stick with that same messaging, it gives time for that compound effect to kick in. Okay, diving a little bit deeper here, I want to talk to you about expectation management. All right, it's really, really clear. A lot of people think that the only they might not be getting referrals, and it could be because of what's happening back here, but it can also be based on the messaging out here or in the sales process here, and if it's not aligned to what's happening back here, right? What you're doing back here may be fine, but if it's completely out of alignment with back here, then yeah, that creates a problem. Okay, what I've noticed in this online space, and I've noticed this in a big way because I came from a corporate world where I worked with multi-billion-dollar companies, and we worked on incredibly complicated and high-stress situations. And I learned from a very young age in that world the importance of clear communication and managing expectations. And people who come into this online business world who don't have the adequate business background, they haven't developed their communication skills and expectation management skills to this level. And so what this means is that they're promising things out here, they're saying things out here, them or their team are saying things in their sales process, and then it's really misaligned back here. And so you could be, on paper doing a good job, but if it's not aligned to what's happening back here, people aren't going to be happy because their expectations aren't being met, which means they're not going to retain, and they're not going to compound. Okay. So this is similar to what I was talking about originally with, make sure that what you're ultimately selling is something that you're really comfortable delivering on. That comes down to expectation management as well, because you don't want to be getting people's expectations way up here and then your delivery is only down here, right? People may be happy with this level, but let's just bring the expectation in a little bit. Otherwise, you're making life way too hard for yourselves, okay? And over communicate, right? This is one of the biggest lessons that I can give you, is to over communicate. Even if like stuff goes wrong, right? There's always issues, mistakes happen, we're all human, this shit happens, right? But you've got to communicate. This is another big problem I see, is that when stuff goes wrong, people go quiet. That is the exact opposite of what you do. You need to over communicate, if anything, right? I experienced this for the first time in a pretty big way in my business back in 2020. We'd just done a huge push, and I was due to pay out affiliates about $60,000 in one day. And I processed the first payment, and then PayPal locked us out. They just went, no, we're reviewing your account, fully locked down, right? And I had $60,000 that I owed people that day, all right? Now, the worst thing I could do in that situation is go silent, right? So what I did was I made public communication, and I worked through every single affiliate that was due a payment, and I spoke to them individually. And not only did I say, hey, this is what has happened, apologies, kind of out of my control. But then one by one, I tried to work out alternate arrangements. Could we pay them outside of PayPal? Is there another way that we could get the funds to them, right? And that we didn't have one single complaint. We didn't have one single issue, because I communicated, and I over communicated, like to the point of ridiculous, just to make sure that people understood. And as it took like a week for it to unwind, and every day, multiple times a day, publicly and one-to-one, I was communicating with everybody to make sure that they were comfortable with the process and they knew I just hadn't disappeared and that they weren't going to get paid. Okay. So this is another really, really important way to maintain those relationships, right? And all of this is building, right? This is all building through here to create a great experience that ultimately has people talking about you. Okay. We dive one step further in and we talk about client care and relationship management, right? We've spoken about communication with your clients, right? If you don't hear from one of them, you can reach out. That's totally okay, right? You can put a reminder, Monday morning, who haven't I heard from, reach out. And at the very least, even if they don't respond, you're fulfilling on your duty and they notice these things, and it becomes a very, very valuable aspect of your coaching and consulting. Okay. The other thing around client care is it's important to understand that even if you're a business coach, a relationship coach, a health coach, there's probably going to be times where you need to step up and go above and beyond, right? So for example, I've had situations where I'm a quote unquote business coach, but my clients might be going through a relationship breakup, and they just need to get on a call for half an hour, and kind of vent. Right? It doesn't necessarily correlate to the business per se. But as I've said here, these big ticket industries and where you're selling high ticket stuff are about transformation, right? And ultimately, that's a holistic endeavor. It's very hard to grow a successful business if your health and your relationship, or vice versa, are out of alignment, right? If you're in a relationship and business isn't going well, it could be making it very hard. Right? Likewise, if this is out of alignment and this is out of alignment, being healthy can be very, very challenging. And so these big ticket transformation industries, they're all interconnected. Okay. And you don't have to become their psychologist, but understand that the scope can expand. And if you can be there for them and you can lend them an ear, then that gets remembered. Okay. And so this is just an example of taking client care to that extra level. And all of these things that we're talking about here, this communication, expectation management, consistency in your messaging and not chopping and changing it every week, consistency in your niche, consistency in your mechanism, consistency in client results, right? These all build and compound, and it's like this wave all pushing to here, right? It's all building and building and building to help you ultimately compound and force this word of mouth to kick in and force this compound effect to kick in. Okay. That's a couple of like principles to really live by if you want to be able to tap into word of mouth and tap into referral traffic in a big way. These are things that I've preached and I've practiced since day one, and they've been hugely profitable for me. Taking it from a principle level down to a more strategic and tactical level, one thing that I see people doing is their pricing strategies don't facilitate getting this compound effect kicking in, right? Especially in the coaching industry. There's this obsession with like pay in full, right? And look, I love a 10K payment, a 15K payment, a 20K payment. I love that hitting my bank account in one hit like anybody else, right? But that's not necessarily the best approach if you're trying to kickstart this flywheel and get this compound effect kicking in, right? Because the more people that we can help, the more testimonials that we can get, and then that's more people that we can retain. It's more people that can talk about us, and it's more marketing collateral that we can feed back up into here to make the whole system operate better, right? And so a simple pricing tweak that you can make is to have slightly more flexible terms, okay? And I've got a little example here, right? You might have, say, a 12K program that people can pay for over the 6 months, and they pay 2K a month. Or they could pay $9,600 one time. Okay, the people that have got the money are going to take this, but for people to be able to get started for a lower barrier, if you pick the right people and you have the right qualification process in and you're selective, which we're going to talk about more in a moment, you're opening the door and making it available to more people. You're also lowering the risk for them, right? So it's not necessarily about taking on lower quality people or widening out your target audience, but there's a certain amount of selling that has to happen in order for someone to part with 10K today versus 2K today, even if it means 6 payments, right? There's lots of proof about this out there. And so this can allow you to, it makes it easier to say yes, which means more clients, more testimonials, more referrals, and more powerful marketing collateral, which makes this compound effect kick in way sooner. It also means that you're stacking monthly recurring revenue, which is going to make you a lot less stressed, which will feed back into, giving you more time to work with your clients. It's going to, give you more confidence about sticking with the direction that you're going in. It's going to make you a lot more relaxed, and you'll have more time to actually communicate with your clients, more time to work with them and give them the care that they need, manage those relationships. And so a lot of benefits flow from this, all right? And I encourage you to give it a go, because I think there's this unhealthy obsession with pay in fulls in the coaching industry, and there's a better way to do things, okay? And like a lot of fear comes up for people when they offer these more flexible terms that people won't stick around. But the reality is, if you've got quality support, you've got a quality product, and you pick the right people, they stick around, plain and simple, okay? And I have clients that stick with me for years and years and years and years and years, right? Just make it unreasonable that 2K a month or 3K a month or 1K a month isn't worth having, being in proximity to you. That's the really simple equation, okay? A little bit on sales and client selection, okay? If you want to have clients who stick with you for longer, if you want to have clients who aggressively refer, I would encourage you to slow down in your sales process and actually be picky. Because if you try and enroll everybody with a pulse and a credit card, they're not going to stick around. Delivery becomes really hard, and that's going to mean that results suffer, which means that the compound effect and them referring people to you is way less likely to kick in, okay? When people actually buy when they're ready, they get better results, they stay longer, they ascend, and they refer. All right. And that's why it's so critical to build out this ecosystem that operates 24/7, 365, whether you're there, whether you're at home, whether you're flying, whether you're on a tropical island, whether you're in the Alps, it doesn't matter. This thing exists online. It's growing every day. There's new people finding you every day. It's nurturing every day. There's sales happening every day. Delivery is happening. We build this world that lives and breathes, and each day gets a bit bigger and a bit stronger. And it allows people to consume and to learn and to get educated and to build trust at scale without you having to do it one-to-one, right? And when you don't try force people into making a purchasing decision too soon, and you let them exist in this world until the moment that they're fully ready, all of these things happen. They get better results because they're 100% ready to go when they buy. They stay longer because the relationship started off on the right foot, which means they get better results. Therefore, they want to stay around longer. When they get better results, because the relationship started on the right foot, they're going to want to ascend up to any higher levels that you've got. And when they get great results and they're all in with you and they're in close proximity to you and they've built a really strong relationship with you, they refer. Okay, so sales process plays a big part. People don't think about this. They think it's just a delivery thing, or they think it's just a marketing thing. But the sales process plays a big part in this, because if we sell to people prematurely, delivery becomes really challenging. They don't stick around, and they're not going to talk to people about us because they're not going to get the experience that they want. Okay, one final one is you've actually got to ask, and I would encourage you to incentivize. All right. Reality is, if you do all of the above really well, even if you don't ask anybody for referrals, they're going to start happening. Okay. Because you're just providing a great experience. You're getting people amazing results. You're only selling to people who are ready to go, and you're being really picky. And it's just going to start. It's going to start to happen when you deliver an amazing, amazing experience. It's a great like acid test for the business. Okay. If you're not having people come to you via your clients, there's work to do. It doesn't mean you're doing things wrong. It just means that, pay attention to these tips and really execute on them. Okay. But we can take this to a whole new level and kind of force that compound effect to kick in more by asking and incentivizing. Okay. Here's a little pro tip on when and how to do that. If you've got a client who signs up, you close them, right? They're on board, you're doing the delivery, and say it's 30 days in and they just get a big win, right? Like they bring in 20K, or they lose their first 10 pounds, or whatever it is that you do. At that moment, when energy is really high, is a great time to ask for a testimonial. And it's also a great time to ask if they know anybody else, right? Super potent, super powerful little tip for you there. If you go and implement that alone, obviously you need to have this stuff in place as well. I think you'll see things really start to improve in terms of the referrals, but you're also getting those testimonials, which you can feed back into your top of funnel marketing. You could run them as ads, particularly potent in your bottom of funnel. The people who have consumed and they know you and they know what you do, and they're just on the fence about purchasing, testimonials are incredibly, incredibly powerful to tip these people over the edge, because they want to see other examples of people getting the results. And in a lot of cases, they want to see somebody like them, either consciously or subconsciously. They like seeing that stuff. And so you feed the testimonials back into the content, and it helps tip these people over the edge. So you've got those coming through. And then you can take this one step further and incentivize with, it could be one-off cash payments of $500. It's just a little tip that makes it, it gives just a bit of an incentive to actually recommend you. You can have cool prizes, right? It could be a really nice bottle of wine or a really nice bottle of whiskey, or, whatever your people are into. It could be bonus time with you. So let's say you run a 6-month program. If someone refers somebody, you could give them an extra month, 2 months, or you could give them extra one-to-one calls, or play around with like bonus time / resources. If they refer you 3 people, they could get a VIP day. Get creative with it, right? But use the intellectual property and use the resources that you've got, prizes, cash payments, and then actually ask. And if you combine that with all of this stuff that we've covered here, you're going to create a machine where you can make a hell of a lot of money from referrals. Okay. One last little tip on courses. All right. So in our model, courses really sit here. This is our middle of funnel where we're nurturing people before they end up in our flagship program, our main offer. And so you can have courses that are essentially a paid way to nurture that relationship. People who pay attention. People who pay more attention. And so, for example, I've got a monthly newsletter. So that's a nurturing asset. I've run workshops and masterclasses. I've got a $1,000 course that people buy and gets them quick results. All these things serve to move the relationship along. Okay. And so for these courses, if you want to get referrals coming in, you can bolt on affiliate programs and pay on a higher ticket course, say like a 500, 1,000, 2,000. You could pay up to say 50% comms if it's not taking up your time to deliver. And on low ticket, we've done this really well. We had a $100 offer in a market that I used to be in, and we paid a 90% comms, and it brought us so many buyers who then ultimately ascended up. So this is a great way to get buyers for free, because you don't pay out the comms. It's a variable cost. You don't pay out the comms until the sale comes in. So they're free buyers that you can ascend up into your higher ticket programs, right? So that would be bolting it on here, and then we could add a little loop here that says you get word of mouth coming this way as well, right? They may not have made it up to here yet, but you can get that feedback loop happening as well. Okay, so that's just a little extra tip. We covered a fair bit. These first few around principles, then we get into more strategies and tactics. But if you go and do this and you do it consistently, don't give up after a month. This needs to become like a way of living and a way of doing business. And if you refer back to this, you think about your business in this way, it'll start to compound and feed back on itself, and those referral clients will start coming in. Okay, head over to the main video in my channel if you want a deeper dive into this model. You want to learn how I've been able to sell over $4 million in coaching, and you're potentially interested in working together. That video breaks it all down. Until next time, I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.